Hello, Army. This is Jin. I don't even know where to begin. My heart feels so full tonight. For years, I only dared to dream of this moment, to imagine standing beside someone who truly understands me. And now that dream has come true. I'm officially married to IU. Just saying those words feel surreal. She's been my comfort, my light, my home. Today, I'm not just smiling, I'm glowing with a happiness I can't put into words. Thank you for being with me through every chapter. And now, for witnessing the happiest day of my life. I know this might come as a shock to many of you. Trust me, it shocked me too. I never imagined that a quiet friendship built on mutual respect and admiration would blossom into something so deep, so powerful, and so life-changing. IU and I have known each other for years. We've crossed paths at award shows, music programs, and even shared a few quiet moments backstage. But it wasn't until Jeon's wedding that something shifted. That day, something in the air felt different. I remember standing there, watching IU sing with such grace and emotion. Her voice filled the room like sunlight pouring through a window. I was mesmerized not just by her talent, but by the way she looked at her best friend Jeon with such love and pride. It was in that moment I realized how much warmth she carried in her heart. I couldn't stop watching her, and when our eyes met, something clicked. It wasn't dramatic or cinematic, it was quiet, like a whisper between two souls who had been waiting to find each other. After the ceremony, we ended up sitting next to each other. We talked about everything and nothing. She laughed at my jokes, even the bad ones. I told her about my upcoming enlistment, and she listened with genuine concern. That night, we exchanged numbers not as idols, but as two people curious about what might happen next. The days that followed were filled with texts, late-night calls, and secret meetups. We kept it quiet, not because we were ashamed, but because we wanted to protect something fragile and new. I remember sneaking out in the middle of the night just to meet her at a quiet cafe in Itaewon. We'd sit there for hours, talking about our dreams, our fears, and the pressures of living under the spotlight. She understood me in ways no one else ever had. And then came the moment that changed everything. It was a rainy evening in Seoul. I had just finished a long day of rehearsals and I was exhausted. IU showed up at my apartment with hot soup and a warm smile. She didn't say much, just sat beside me, held my hand, and let me rest my head on her shoulder. That night, I cried, not because I was sad, but because I felt safe. For the first time in years, I felt like I could let my guard down. She didn't ask me to be Jin from BTS. She just wanted me to be Seokjin. From that moment on, I knew I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. But it wasn't easy. The industry is harsh. Rumors spread like wildfire. Every time we were spotted together, the internet exploded. Some fans were supportive, others not so much. I received messages telling me I was selfish, that I was betraying ARMY. It hurt. But IU stood by me. She reminded me that love isn't something to be ashamed of. She told me that if we truly cared about each other, we had to be brave. So, we started planning our wedding in secret. It was just us, a few close friends, and our families. We didn't want a spectacle. We wanted something intimate, something real. IU chose a small garden in Jeju Island, surrounded by cherry blossoms and ocean breeze. I wore a simple black tuxedo, and she wore a dress that made her look like a dream. When she walked down the aisle, I couldn't hold back my tears. I cried like a baby. And when she reached me, she wiped my tears and whispered, "We made it." I still can't believe it. After the ceremony, we danced under the stars. No cameras, no reporters, just music, laughter, and love. Jungkook sang a song for us, and even Yoongi cracked a smile. Taeyeon gave a speech that made everyone laugh and cry. J-Hope brought the energy, as always. RM stood beside me, proud and supportive, and Jimin, he hugged me so tight I thought my ribs would crack. But there was one moment that caught me off guard. During the reception, I saw Jungkook talking to someone in the corner. She looked familiar. My heart dropped. It was the girl I had once loved, the one I thought I'd spent my life with. She was smiling at Jungkook, her hand resting gently on his arm. I felt a pang of jealousy, of sadness. I had cried for her once. I had written songs about her, and now she was laughing with someone else. I turned away, trying to focus on IU. She was glowing, radiant, and mine. But a part of me couldn't help but feel the sting. It wasn't about losing her, it was about realizing how far I'd come. That girl was my past. IU was my future. And I chose to let go. That night, as we lay in bed, IU held my hand and whispered, "You're safe now." I believed her. I believe her still. This is just the beginning, ARMY. There's so much more to tell. So many memories, so many emotions. I want you to be part of this journey, not just as fans, but as family. I never thought I'd be the kind of person who kept secrets from the world, especially not from ARMY. You've been with me through everything, my highs, my heartbreaks, my awkward jokes, my quiet moments. But this love I found with IU, it was too precious to expose, too delicate to risk. So we carried it in silence, like a secret melody only we could hear. There were days when I wanted to scream it from the rooftops. Days when I see her name trending and feel this rush of pride, knowing the woman behind that spotlight was the same one who texted me goodnight with a heart emoji, but I held back, not because I was afraid of the truth, but because I was afraid of losing it. IU understood. She always did. She'd say, "Let's protect this just a little longer." And I'd nod, even though my heart ached to share her with the world. We became experts at hiding in plain sight, matching hoodies, private car rides, disguises that made us look like college students on a late night ramen run. We laughed about it, but deep down we knew the stakes were high. There was one night I'll never forget. We were walking along the Han River, just the two of us. It was cold and she kept tugging her scarf tighter around her neck. I offered her my jacket and she smiled, this soft, grateful smile that made my chest tighten. We sat on a bench watching the water shimmer under the city lights, and then she said, "Do you think we'll ever be able to live freely?" I didn't know how to answer, because the truth is, being an idol means living in a glass box. Every move is watched, every word is dissected, and love is treated like a scandal. But that night, I looked at her and said, "If we're brave enough, maybe we can break the glass." She leaned her head on my shoulder and whispered, "Then let's be brave." From that moment on, we started planning our future not just in secret but in hope. We talked about where we'd live, what kind of dog we'd adopt, how we'd decorate our home. IU wanted a cozy reading nook. I wanted a gaming corner. We compromised. She'd get the nook, and I get the corner as long as I promise not to yell during matches. We were building a life piece by piece, but the world kept spinning and the pressure kept mounting. BTS was preparing for a comeback. IU was filming a drama. Our schedules clashed, our time together shrank. There were weeks when we only saw each other through video calls. I'd fall asleep to the sound of her voice and wake up to her sleepy smile. It wasn't ideal, but it was enough. Until it wasn't. One morning, I woke up to a headline that made my blood run cold. Jungkook spotted with mystery woman. Is BTS's golden maknae dating? I clicked the article, heart pounding, and there she was. The girl I had once loved. The one who had broken me. She was smiling beside Jungkook, her hand tucked into his. My chest tightened. Not because I still loved her, but because I hadn't expected the past to collide with the present so violently. I called IU immediately. She picked up on the second ring, her voice calm. You saw it? I nodded even though she couldn't see me. Yeah. There was a pause, and then she said, Do you still love her? I didn't hesitate. No, I love you. She didn't cry. She didn't get angry. She just said, Then let's move forward. That's the thing about IU. She doesn't dwell. She doesn't spiral. She chooses peace, even when the world offers chaos. And that's why I love her. That's why I married her. But before the wedding, there was one more storm we had to weather. The rumors started swirling. Fans speculated. Some guessed correctly. Others threw wild accusations. IU was linked to every male celebrity under the Sunday. I was accused of being distant, cold, even arrogant. It hurt, but we stayed silent. Not because we were weak, but because we were waiting for the right moment. And then, the leak happened. A blurry photo. Us, holding hands outside the restaurant. It spread like wildfire. My phone exploded. IU's agency went into crisis mode. BTS's management called an emergency meeting. I sat in that room, surrounded by executives, feeling like a criminal. They asked me if it was true. I said yes. The room went quiet. And then Bang PD spoke. If you love her, then stand by her. I'll never forget those words. That night, I called IU and said, Let's do it. Let's tell the world. She didn't hesitate. I'm ready. We posted a joint statement. Simple. Honest, no drama, just love. The reaction was overwhelming. Some fans cried, some cheered, some walked away, but most stayed. Most understood. And that gave us the strength to move forward. We announced our engagement a month later. The wedding was set for October. A garden ceremony, cherry blossoms, close friends, no press, no spectacle, just love. And now, here we are, married, happy, free. But the journey wasn't over. There were still stories to tell, still emotions to unpack, still memories to share. The morning after our announcement, I woke up to a phone vibrating non-stop. My notifications were out of control. Hundreds of messages, thousands of mentions, and more headlines than I could count. IU and I had gone public, and the world was wide awake. I sat up in bed, still groggy, and looked over at IU. She was already scrolling through her phone, her brows furrowed. I reached for her hand, and she gave me a small smile. It's happening, she whispered. And it was. Every major outlet had picked up the story. Jin of BTS and IU, confirmed relationship. K-pop royalty in love, the couple that broke the internet. Some headlines were sweet, others not so much. There were Speculations, conspiracy theories, even accusations that it was a publicity stunt. But the truth was simple. We were in love and we were tired of hiding. I opened Weverse and saw thousands of comments. Some fans were heartbroken, some were angry, but most were kind. They said things like, if Jin is happy, I'm happy. IU is lucky, but so is Jin. We've watched you grow, now we get to watch you love. I cry, not because of the hate, but because of the love. Army has always been my anchor, my compass. And seeing so many of you embrace this new chapter meant more than I can ever explain. But not everyone took it well. Later that day, I got a call from Jungkook. His voice was tense. Hyung, we need to talk. I met him at the studio. He was pacing, his jaw clenched. Why didn't you tell me? He asked. I sighed. I wanted to. I just didn't know how. He looked at me, eyes filled with something I couldn't quite read. You knew I was seeing her. I froze. You mean? He nodded. Yeah, the girl you used to love. We've been talking for a while. I felt my stomach drop. Not because I was jealous, but because I hadn't expected this collision. My past and his present entangled in ways that felt too close for comfort. I didn't know, I said quietly. Jungkook sat down, rubbing his temples. It's complicated, Hyung. I didn't mean to hurt you. I nodded. I'm not hurt, just surprised. He looked up. Are you okay? I smiled. I'm married to IU. I'm more than okay. We hugged it out. That's the thing about BTS. We fight, we clash, but we always come back to each other. We're brothers. And nothing, not even tangled love stories, can break that bond. But the media didn't care about our reconciliation. They ran with the drama. Jin's ex now dating Jungkook. BTS love triangle. IU reacts to Jin's past romance. It was exhausting. IU and I tried to stay above it, but it was hard. Every time we stepped outside, cameras followed. Every time we posted, the comments exploded. We needed a break. So, we flew to Jeju Island, a quiet escape before the wedding. Just the two of us. No stylists, no managers, no schedules. We rented a small cottage by the sea. IU brought her guitar. I brought my Nintendo Switch. We spent our days cooking, walking, and dreaming. One night, we sat by the fire, wrapped in blankets. IU played a soft melody, and I hummed along. She looked at me and said, Do you think they'll ever stop watching? I shrugged. Maybe, maybe not. But I don't care, as long as I have you. She smiled. Then let's make this our world. And we did. We started writing vows. Hers were poetic, filled with metaphors and moonlight. Mine were awkward, filled with dad jokes and heartfelt promises. I told her I'd always let her pick the movie. She told me she'd always laugh at my jokes, even the bad ones. We planned every detail together. The flowers, the music, the guest list. We kept it small, just family, close friends, and the members. No press, no influencers, just love. But even in paradise, the past found a way in. One evening, I got a message from her, the girl I used to love. She said, I saw the news. Congratulations. Now, I stared at the screen, unsure how to respond. IU saw my hesitation and asked, Who is it? I showed her the message. She read it, then handed the phone back. You don't owe her anything. I nodded. I know, but I replied anyway. Thank you. I wish you happiness too. It was closure. Quiet, simple, and necessary. IU didn't flinch. She trusted me. That's what makes her different. She doesn't compete with ghosts. She doesn't chase shadows. She stands in the light and she invites me to stand with her. And I do. The wedding was days away. My heart was racing. My hands were shaking. But my soul was calm. Because I knew I was walking toward forever. The morning after the wedding felt like waking up inside a dream I didn't want to end. IU was still asleep beside me, her hair tousled, her breathing soft. I watched her for a while, memorizing every detail. The curve of her cheek, the way her fingers curled near her lips, the quiet peace that radiated from her even in sleep. I whispered, "I'm yours," and kissed her forehead. She stirred, smiled, and whispered back, "Forever." Outside, the garden was still littered with petals. The chairs were empty. The music had stopped, but the air still held the warmth of celebration. Our friends had left late into the night, some tipsy, some tearful, all joyful. Namjoon had given a speech that made everyone laugh and cry. Yoongi played piano while IU sang. Taehyung danced with my mom. Jimin cried twice. And Jungkook, he stayed quiet, respectful, supportive. It was perfect, but perfection doesn't last forever. By noon, the headlines had exploded again. Photos from the ceremony had leaked. Blurry shots of IU in her dress. Me wiping tears, the kiss, the rings, the vows. Someone had snapped them from a distance, and now they were everywhere. Jin and IU's secret wedding revealed. Inside the most private ceremony in K-pop history, fans react to BTS's oldest member tying the knot. IU's agency scrambled to release a statement. BTS's team followed. We confirmed the wedding, thanked fans for their support, and asked for privacy. But privacy is a luxury we don't always get. The internet was divided. Some fans were ecstatic. They posted edits, wrote poems, even created fan art of our wedding. Others were confused, hurt, even angry. I saw comments like, "I thought he'd wait for us," and "IU stole him from ARMY." It stung. Not because I didn't understand, but because I did. I know what it's like to love someone from afar, to feel connected through music, through words, through moments that feel personal, even when they're shared with millions. I know what it's like to imagine a future with someone you've never met, and I know how it feels when that future shifts. But I also know this. Love isn't a betrayal. It's a beginning. IU. And I didn't fall in love to hurt anyone. We fell in love because we found something rare, something real. And while I'll always belong to ARMY in a way that's sacred and unbreakable, I also belong to her now. And that doesn't mean I've left you. It means I've grown. That night, IU and I sat on the balcony of our villa, watching the waves crash against the shore. She held my hand and said, "Are you okay?" I nodded. "I'm just processing." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "We'll get through it together." And we did. We spent the next few days in Jeju, away from the noise. We hiked, cooked, played games, and talked about everything. We laughed about our awkward first dates, cried about the pressure we'd faced, and dreamed about the future. IU wants to write a children's book. I want to open a ramen shop. We joked about combining the two, ramen and bedtime stories. She said she designed the menu. I said I'd handle the storytelling. We talk about kids, not in a rushed way, but in a hopeful way. She said she wanted to raise them in a home filled with music and laughter. I said I wanted to teach them how to play Mario Kart. We imagined their names, their personalities, their quirks. It was surreal, beautiful, grounding, but even in paradise, the world kept knocking. My phone buzzed with messages from producers, managers, and reporters. IU's drama team wanted updates. BTS's label wanted to schedule meetings. The honeymoon was ending and reality was calling. We packed our bags and flew back to Seoul. The airport was chaos. Fans, reporters, flashing lights. IU held my hand tight, and I shielded her as best I could. We didn't speak, we just moved. Quiet, quickly, together. Back home, everything felt different. Same apartment, same furniture, same routines. But now, we were husband and wife. We cooked dinner together, we folded laundry, we argued about which show to binge. It was normal. And that's what made it magical. One night, I sat on the couch, watching IU read. She looked up and said, "You're staring." I smiled, I memorized things. She laughed. Why? Because I want to remember this moment forever. She put down her book, walked over and kissed me. Then let's make more moments. And we did. But the journey wasn't over. There were still challenges ahead, still stories to tell, still emotions to unpack. The days leading up to the wedding felt like a dream wrapped in chaos. There was so much to do: final fittings, last-minute changes, seating arrangements, and 1,000 tiny details that somehow mattered more than they should. But through it all, IU and I stayed grounded. We kept reminding each other, this isn't about perfection, it's about us. We were getting married. I still remember the night before the ceremony. IU and I had agreed to sleep separately, just for tradition's sake. She stayed in a quiet villa nearby with her maid of honor, and I stayed with Namjoon, Yoongi, and Taehyung. The guys tried to keep things light, cracking jokes, playing music, even sneaking in a few drinks. But I couldn't relax. My heart was racing. My thoughts were everywhere. The morning after the wedding felt like waking up inside a dream I didn't want to end. IU was still asleep beside me, her hair tousled, her breathing soft. I watched her for a while, memorizing every detail. The curve of her cheek, the way her fingers curled near her lips, the quiet peace that radiated from her even in sleep. I whispered, "I'm yours," and kissed her forehead. She stirred, smiled, and whispered back, "Forever." Outside, the garden was still littered with petals. The chairs were empty, the music had stopped, but the air still held the warmth of celebration. Our friends had left late into the night, some tipsy, some tearful, all joyful. Namjoon had given a speech that made everyone laugh and cry. Yoongi played piano while IU sang. Taehyung danced with my mom. Jimin cried twice. And Jungkook, he stayed quiet, respectful, supportive. It was perfect. But perfection doesn't last forever. By noon, the headlines had exploded again. Photos from the ceremony had leaked. Blurry shots of IU in her dress. Me wiping tears. The kiss, the rings, the vows. Someone had snapped them from a distance, and now they were everywhere. Jin and IU's secret wedding revealed. Inside the most private ceremony in K-pop history. Fans react to BTS's oldest member tying the knot. IU's agency scrambled to release a statement. BTS's team followed. We confirmed the wedding, thanked fans for their support, and asked for privacy. But privacy is a luxury we don't always get. The internet was divided. Some fans were ecstatic. They posted edits, wrote poems, even created fan art of our wedding. Others were confused, hurt, even angry. I saw comments like, "I thought he'd wait for us and IU stole him from ARMY." It stung. Not because I didn't understand, but because I did. I know what it's like to love someone from afar, to feel connected through music, through words, through moments that feel personal even when they're shared with millions. I know what it's like to imagine a future with someone you've never met. And I know how it feels when that future shifts. But I also know this: love isn't a betrayal, it's a beginning. IU and I didn't fall in love to hurt anyone. We fell in love because we found something rare, something real. And while I'll always belong to ARMY in a way that's sacred and unbreakable, I also belong to her now. And that doesn't mean I've left you, it means I've grown. That night, IU and I sat on the balcony of our villa, watching the waves crash against the shore. She held my hand and said, "Are you okay?" I nodded. "I'm just processing." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "We'll get through it together." And we did. We spent the next few days in Jeju, away from the noise. We hiked, cooked, played games, and talked about everything. We laughed about our awkward first dates, cried about the pressure we'd faced, and dreamed about the future. IU wants to write a children's book. I want to open a ramen shop. We joked about combining the two, ramen and bedtime stories. She said she designed the menu. I said I'd handle the storytelling. We talked about kids, not in a rush way, but in a hopeful way. She said she wanted to raise them in a home filled with music and laughter. I said I wanted to teach them how to play Mario Kart. We imagined their names, their personalities, their quirks. It was surreal, beautiful, grounding, but even in paradise, the world kept knocking. My phone buzzed with messages from producers, managers, and reporters. IU's drama team wanted updates. BTS's label wanted to schedule meetings. The honeymoon was ending and reality was calling. We packed our bags and flew back to Seoul. The airport was chaos. Fans, reporters, flashing lights. IU held my hand tight, and I shielded her as best I could. We didn't speak. We just moved, quietly, quickly, together. Back home, everything felt different. Same apartment, same furniture, same routines, but now we were husband and wife. We cooked dinner together, we folded laundry, we argued about which show to binge. It was normal, and that's what made it magical. One night, I sat on the couch, watching IU read. She looked up and said, "You're staring." I smiled. "I'm memorizing?" She laughed. "Why?" "Because I want to remember this moment forever." She put down her book, walked over and kissed me. "Then let's make more moments." And we did. But the journey wasn't over. There were still challenges ahead, still stories to tell, still emotions to unpack. Namjoon pulled me aside and said, "Hyung, you're not just marrying IU, you're marrying peace." Coming back to Seoul after the wedding felt like stepping into a different version of our lives. Same city, same skyline, but everything had changed. IU and I weren't just two artists anymore. We were husband and wife, and the world knew it. The first few days was surreal. Our faces were everywhere. Magazines, news apps, fan edits, even billboards. I saw one on the way to the studio, a giant photo of us holding hands, with the words, "Korea's Sweethearts" written in bold. I laughed. IU rolled her eyes. We're not a drama, she said. We're just us. But just us wasn't so simple anymore. Everywhere we went, people stared. Some smiled, some whispered, some took photos without asking. IU handled it with grace, as always. She'd smile politely, nod, and keep walking. I tried to do the same, but it was hard. I wanted to protect her, shield her, keep her safe from the noise. One afternoon, we went to a cafe we used to love. It was quiet, tucked away in a side street. We thought we'd be safe there, but within minutes, someone posted a photo. The caption read, Jin and IU spotted on a date still glowing after the wedding. By the time we finished our drinks, there were fans outside. Not angry, not aggressive, just curious. IU looked at me and said, we can't hide anymore. I nodded. Then let's be proud. So we walked out hand in hand. The fans clapped, some cried. One girl handed IU a bouquet and said, thank you for loving him. IU hugged her. I smiled. It was beautiful, messy, real. But not everyone was kind. Online, the hate kept coming. Some accused IU of using me for fame. Others said I'd betrayed ARMY. There were threads dissecting our relationship, analyzing our body language, questioning our sincerity. It was exhausting. I tried to ignore it. But one night, I broke. I was scrolling through comments when I saw one that said, Jin doesn't deserve IU. She could do better. Another said, IU ruined BTS's image. And another, I hope they break up soon. I put down my phone and stared at the ceiling. IU walked in, saw my face, and sat beside me. You read the... I nodded. I know. He smiled. Then breathe. You've earned this. I tried. I really did. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw her walking down the aisle, smiling at me, becoming mine. It was overwhelming, beautiful, terrifying. At one point, I stepped outside and looked up at the stars. The Jeju sky was clear, and the ocean breeze carried the scent of cherry blossoms. I whispered to myself, this is it. This is the moment I've waited for. And then I cried. Not because I was scared, but because I was grateful for every heartbreak that led me here, for every lonely night that taught me patience, for every song that carried my emotions when words failed. I cried for the boy who once thought love was impossible, and I cried for the man who finally found it. The next morning, everything moved fast. Hair, suit, shoes, vows. I barely had time to think. The garden was breathtaking soft petals, falling like confetti, chairs lined with white silk, and a small stage where IU would sing later. The members arrived one by one, dressed like royalty. My parents hugged me tight. IU's mom kissed my cheek and said, take care of my daughter. I promised I would, and then the music started. I stood at the altar, heart pounding, hands trembling. The gas turned. The petals danced in the wind, and there she was. Yo. She walked slowly, gracefully, her eyes locked on mine. Her dress shimmered in the sunlight, and her smile was everything. I felt my knees weaken, my breath caught, my soul lit up. She reached me and I whispered, you're real. She laughed softly. I'm yours. The officiant began. I barely heard the words. All I could focus on was her eyes, her hands, her presence. When it was time to say our vows, I took a deep breath and spoke from my heart. I've spent years searching for something I couldn't name. I thought fame would fill the void. I thought success would silence the ache. But then I met you, and everything changed. You didn't just love me, you saw me. You didn't just hold my hand, you held my heart. Today, I promise to be your home, your laughter, your strength. I promise to choose you every day in every way. She wiped a tear and began hers. You once told me that love felt like a song you couldn't finish. Well, today we finish it together. You are my melody, my harmony, my rhythm. You are the quiet in my chaos, the warmth in my winter. I promise to walk beside you, not just in the spotlight, but in the shadows. I promise to love you, not as Jin from BTS, but as Seok Jin, the man who made me believe in forever. We exchanged rings, simply. Elegant, meaningful. And then the officiant said the words I'll never forget. I now pronounce you husband and wife. The crowd erupted. IU and I kissed soft, sweet, and full of promise. The members cheered. My mom cried. IU's dad clapped like he'd won the lottery. It was perfect. But the moment that truly broke me came later. During the reception, IU stood up and said, I want to sing something special. She walked to the stage, picked up her guitar, and began to play. The song was new, written just for me. The lyrics spoke of quiet mornings, shared dreams, and the kind of love that doesn't fade. Her voice was soft, raw, and full of emotion. I cried again, because in that moment, I realized this wasn't just a wedding, it was a rebirth. A new chapter, a new beginning. And I was ready